Hi, it's Seymour here. Welcome to your weekly update. Well, a few weeks ago, I showed you this and asked for your indulgence because it doesn't look like terribly much on the screen here. This is the all-new Extreme with the stunning range of features, and the reaction was phenomenal. And we decided that we needed to make a new film that beautifully described everything about the product. We're making a series of what we call IPVs, individual product videos, one for each of the products, because people say, well, remind me what is it about this one? Remind me what is it about that one? So we're making one for each. And I mentioned in last week's email, where are the emails here? Yeah, so I said, look, I've been insanely busy. This is last week. I said, I've been insanely busy last week, working on something pretty special I'm planning to show you in next week's update, which is the one we're doing now, this week's update. It became all-consuming because of a couple of critical meetings this weekend. One of them was in Berlin with our key overseas manufacturing partner. So this film was important, but because of this meeting, it was really important to impress upon our manufacturing partner just how amazing this is, because manufacturers work for dozens and dozens, sometimes hundreds of other companies, and we needed to impress how great MAGFAST is. And so this is what we came up with, and I think you'll agree it's pretty amazing.
MAGFAST Extreme is, quite simply, a new class of power bank, utterly uncompromising in every way. Extreme's extended form factor and high-intensity power source allow two extraordinary features that have never before been offered together and in a singular, beautiful product. First, arranged perfectly, symmetrically along its top surface, MAGFAST Extreme has not one, not two, but incredibly 3 fast Qi wireless charging ports. Second, in addition to offering all that wireless power and a total of 5 USB outlets, the battery inside is so powerful it can jump-start your car. And up to 24 of your neighbors on a single charge. MAGFAST Extreme. Extreme wireless charging, extreme wired charging, extreme car starting.
So that is the new IPV, the new Extreme IP. Here it is, look in the timeline. Extreme IPV short. It's a slightly shorter version we made for that meeting, and it made a huge difference for us. The head of the partner that I've told you about them before, they're called eTech. I visited them earlier this year. We recorded some video down there. But the CEO is now personally taking over the project because he sees this as being so important to speed it up and get it to the finishing line and make sure that we have this world-class quality. But I thought it would just be fun to take you through a little bit of the thinking behind how it came together. So this is where I spent, this timeline here is where I spent so much time the other week, and it looks so simple, doesn't it? Now it's done. But I probably have, if I were to guess, 5 or 6 hours in here, and then hours and hours and hours in meetings working on each of the individual shots. So let's just spend a few minutes and take you through the evolution of it. The first thing is I went back to look at the script, and I don't know if you know about this, but in Google Docs, here's the script. In Google Docs, there's this feature here where you can go, look, version history. Okay, see the version history. And if we do the version history of this, we very first created a document, although it looks like it's a fairly empty document, back on April the 11th. June 15th looks like it's when we started work on it. And if I look at the earliest version of that day, what's interesting to me is that we started this line that I think is really important to the opening of it. We started with, and you remember, look, it was called MAGFAST Life Extreme, but MAGFAST Life Extreme is simply a new class of mobile charger. Now, that's not exactly the words we ended up with, but already I was trying to find some words. The thing about Extreme is that there really is nothing else like it, and I wanted to have some wording that emphasized that what it is, which is that it's simply a new class. There is nothing else like there about it, out there like it. And then if you see as I work through, look, 850, 851, 852, the things started to flesh out. And you can see here, it's a new class of mobile charger, and it's designed to be the best choice for you when you need plenty of power. Well, that just doesn't sound kind of cool enough, does it at all? And so you can go through kind of minute by minute. Oh, look, a few minutes later, its extended form factor and ultra-high current power source allow 2 extraordinary features. So that's just a little bit of fun. You can just kind of see the evolution of the script. And finally, we wind up with MAGFAST Extreme is quite simply a new class of power bank, utterly uncompromising in every way. And you can see that it's no great secret that I'm from England, but you can see there's a little bit of a sort of a little bit of my kind of heritage in the way that we're using language there. And then the next thing to do was to find some music that would go with it. And I have a piece of music that I've been using for years and years since I was on the radio. I don't know if you know this. I was on the radio in the UK. Oh God, in 1993, I think it was 1990 to 1993. And there's a piece of music that I used to use kind of as background music when I was talking on the radio back then that I've used for things, but we decided we needed to get some new music. And what you can do is you can buy royalty-free music, and there's this website called Bensound, that we kind of like. The thing is that they've got so many different pieces of music, and there's no, you can click on these different categories here, jazz and acoustic and everything, but ultimately you just have to sit and click on the play button and listen and say, could this be the music we're looking for? And you go, well, that's quite cool, it could be good for something, but it doesn't seem like what we want here. Let's try this one. And again, I mean, I can see us doing some sort of video with that. So we've got goes the train, and we've got a membership for this site. So I'm sorry, when I hear a good one, I download it. This is a new one here, just came in. So you can see an amazing video made to that, but it looks it's going to be one with a lot of how can I describe it? It just feels like it needs a lot of shots, a lot of cuts, a lot of very kind of fast moving stuff. So one of these days, maybe we'll have the resources to make a video that can go with that. But eventually, I'm not sure where it is on the website, but eventually, after listening to a lot of stuff, we came up with, this, which is called Over the Hills by a company or a guy called Vital. Listen. Oh, hang on. Back to the beginning. We really liked this because it has this lovely kind of slow, flowy feel, doesn't it? Which is important because there's the point where we do the jump starting of the car, and we wanted to have this really dramatic kind of contrast. Can I find the music that's where we jump start the car? I don't think I can. Can I find it quickly enough? No, I can't find it quickly enough for you. But we wanted to have something that's beautiful and flowy, so when we did jump start the car, it would really come in and really be a big contrast. So, having written the script and got the music together, the next thing to do was to record it. I don't really have any good pictures to go with this, but it turns out that a neighbor of ours right here where we live has a recording studio in the village here called West Side Music. This is their brand new website. You're seeing it for the first time alongside me. But if ever you're in upstate New York and you need something great recorded, West Side Music. By the way, this is very funny because literally the last time I looked at the website, I was thinking, guys, you got to change this website. It looks like it's from 1997. And they must have changed it just in the last couple of days. So, because now it looks pretty cool, doesn't it? About the guys, Alan Douche is a Grammy award-winning mastering engineer, 3-time Grammy award. Look, he's been an audio engineer for 25 years, mastered 16,000 albums with artists of every genre. Anyway, he's just fantastic. There he is, one of the nicest guys you've ever met. His wife is great. She's a radio presenter in the region, and we just sat down for a couple of hours and mixed the soundtrack. So then we got the soundtrack together, and even before getting this final soundtrack, let's just listen to a little bit of it. Listen to a little bit of it here.
MAGFAST Extreme is, quite simply, a new class of power bank, utterly uncompromising in every way.
So you can hear the quality of my voice as recorded by Alan, as opposed to me just kind of sitting in front of my computer with the little regular microphone there. And his genius is in just taking kind of ratty old voice like mine and positioning the microphone, and I don't know, just somehow making it sound. I don't know. Some people think it sounds quite good. I think, like most people, I don't care for listening to the sound of my own voice. But anyway, he put it together. And then I worked with our animator, Philip Spasser, who I've been working with for years now, on the individual shots. And this shot here, let me just turn off the sound for a second here. This shot here was going to be the opening shot. This with the kind of with the lines going up the side, and somehow it's like it's fine, but it just didn't sparkle enough to be the opening shot. So we actually took the second shot and made it into the first shot. And as you can see, it's kind of, and you play that with the music, and it's kind of,
MAGFAST Extreme is,
so that kind of feels like it was always supposed to be that way, doesn't it? It's amazing how you plan it, and then when you're actually there editing and putting the thing together, it kind of takes on a life of its own. So this shot we call the helicopter shot because it's kind of like a tall building, and it's like the helicopter is floating around, and there's a lot going on in here to demonstrate to the viewer. You know, we're showing that there's the cable, we're showing that it's long, we're showing that it's tall, getting our logo in there, and then this is the critical thing. This this line moving across here, which is the kind of thing that most folks wouldn't think to do, but these lines that show the reflectivity, is that even a word, of the surface. Look at the way that moves. You see the way see that shape moving across there? These are absolutely critical to having the viewer understand. Boom! Look at that. The quality of the product and the glossiness of the surface. And remember a couple of weeks ago we were talking about fingerprint? There it is, right on the back of the product. Doesn't it look fantastic? We did that whole update about product dress, talking about how we do the markings. If you haven't, go back a couple of weeks ago. We did a whole session on that, which folks really seem to like. So there's our helicopter shot. And now it's very time consuming. Oh, and here at the end we just show the LEDs. Do a full update on the LEDs for you soon, because we're very, very excited. We've kind of spent more time, I think, just figuring out the LEDs than most folks spend on their entire product. I think the LEDs, the quality of the LEDs and the way they convey information actually is a product in its own right. All right, so then we had this kind of, not emergency, but we had this situation, which is that this opening shot, and notice the way it works there with even though it's merged here. Do you see the way we've got the sort of like, it's like the sunshine hits the top of the building there? But even with that effect, we didn't feel it was strong enough on an opening shot, but we'd only got so much film available to fill this is about 1 minute and 15 seconds this. So this then became the second shot, and I think, I think you'll agree that it holds its own now, having had this very strong opening. So we go into the second shot here, and then after this sort of self-indulgent opening, it's time to start talking about some of the features.
Allow two extraordinary features.
All right, let's turn the volume down a little bit. But what we're saying here is that the form factor and the power inside allow two features that have never been together in a product before, which is true.
Have never before been offered together and in a singular, beautiful product.
We hope you agree that it's beautiful. So the first thing is the 3 Qi.
Arranged.
Oh, that's a bit hard to listen to, isn't it? But the 3 Qi wireless ports. How do you show something that's completely invisible? Well, this is our crack at it, but I'm just going to tell you a little bit of the evolution of how that came about. So during our, this is actually for a different film that we're working on. So if you compare the quality of what you've just been looking at with this is I'll just play you a little bit of this. This is one of the ones we're working in at the moment for life, for the kind of the charger you want to use every day.
The first thing about MAGFAST Life is this design just feels so great in your hand.
Okay, so how plain and ordinary does this look? Like, we couldn't show this to, I mean, it's great to show it to you because you're here and taking an interest in what we're doing. But there's so much. I mean, this is what's called a very, very rough render. Look, it's got the old logo on it. It's got a spare cable flying around here because later in the film, this cable is going to be needed for something. And so Philip, our animator, just keeps. It's kind of like when you have a workbench in your garage or something. Like, you keep all the tools you need laying around on the bench, but only when you're cleaning up the whole house do you tidy all of the tools away. So when we finalize this shot, it'll just be a beautiful shot of the product moving along here with all of the glossiness and everything. But those glossy shots, there's 30 frames a second, and every frame takes, it depends on the complexity of the frame, but every frame can take 10, 15 minutes. So you've got many, many, many hours of computer work to get out each second that you see. So we don't render, we don't produce that final glossy version of it until right at the end of the process. So this is earlier in the process, and you can see it's very funny to see. It looks like just like everything's flying around in space, doesn't it? But some of this, you can see this cable here. One of the things is most people watching this right now don't really understand what USB-C is. So we're trying to explain as we go along. Here, you listen.
Superfast USB-C, the new universal standard of wired charging. C plugs in either way around and charges crazy fast.
And look, there's a little glitch in the animation here. It doesn't actually plug straight into the hole. Do you see it's off center? That's one of the little things that we have to correct before we finish it. Anyway, the reason I brought you here was to show you how we had been showing wireless. Watch this.
Way to charge up your new life is Qi Wireless.
So this was the initial animation that we had for showing wireless, and the problem with it is it looks too much like Wi-Fi. Right, a couple of people watching this said it looks too much like Wi-Fi, and then it's also, if you can see, it's in a single plane. It's actually a flat symbol. So when the camera starts to move around, it's kind of okay as long as you're in front of it, but if you go around to the side, of course, it becomes thin and disappears. So we were looking for some kind of new way of showing Qi wireless charging, whereas there is a standard symbol for Wi-Fi. You're kind of looking at it now, which is why we wanted to get rid of it for saying wireless charging. So we had to go invent it, and Philip, it's just our incredible animator, came up with that. I mean, look at how beautiful this is. Isn't this incredible? And this shot, it's like you're flying backwards over the surface of an aircraft carrier or something. Isn't this astonishing? So we go not one, not two, but three. And then we notice these little reflections going on here. Do you see this little mark here? That's the reflection of the first phone coming down. And I think we actually do need to re-render this shot because the contrast is so high, it's a little difficult sometimes to see what's going on. But there goes the first phone. There it is, lighting up. This is what happens. This first one's an iPhone. That's what happens when an iPhone goes on to charge. It goes from black, and you start to get this little, it's hard to see here, isn't it? But this little symbol here is a battery symbol coming on. In comes the second phone. There's an Android. That's how it lights up. and then that is it. And then I think it actually is another iPhone. We've got that. So there's that shot, and then we haven't really shown you this in much detail yet. What happens when they come into charge is that this is port number 3. Could you remember seeing the numbers on them when we were going down here? Bum, 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 bum. Can you see? Let me zoom in here. So that's port number 1, number 2, and number 3, and they each correspond to one of the LEDs. So look, as number 1 comes on, starts to charge, just watch this. It's port number 3. So watch LED number 3. Boom! It starts to come on and breathe. Then in comes number 2. Port number 2. LED number 2 starts to breathe in and out. Look at them just going. And now number 1 comes in, and you've got all 3 of the LEDs showing you which of the 3 ports are charging. And the speed of this breathing is going to relate to the speed of the charge. So it'll obviously be faster when you first put it on. Then towards the end of the charge, it'll slow right down. So now we've shown the three wireless charging ports. And here we're saying, and then in addition to all that wireless power, plus, not what the original script said, not 1, not 2, right? Because that's USB-A, USB-C, so that's 1, 2. Not 1, not 2, not 3, there's another USB-C. Not 4, but 5. And we thought it was a bit too much doing all of those not. So what it actually says is that actually let's just play it. We say second, in addition to all that.
Second, in addition to offering all that wireless power and a total of 5 USB outlets.
So this was interesting because we thought we wanted to, how do we count without counting? So what we did was we did this little highlight. So in your, let me cut off the sound. In your mind, you've got, your mind is going, well, what are they highlighting here? And 5 is a low enough number that we think that your mind kind of unconsciously is counting kind of 2, 3, 4, and then I then say 5 USB outlets, which is what it is, 2 C's and 3 A's. The battery inside. How do you show the battery inside? Well, what we thought we would do would be to show the product like this, and then to make it into glass. Watch this. There's the little plug that, this is the plug we showed you a couple of weeks ago that covers the 12 volt outlets. And then, do you see this animation into glass? Philip is just a genius. I don't know how he does this, but we discuss basically but still the glossy reflection. Look at that. All right, of course, because it's glass. You see how the reflection is off of this surface, but because he's a genius, he keeps the reflection even when the product turns into glass. And so here, this is kind of it's an animation, right? So kind of everything here is in exactly the right position. This isn't an actual picture of the actual battery because in an animation, you're trying to very clearly communicate things. And we're showing here that it's very powerful, super high amps. So we don't have an actual very, very final measure, but it's going to be at least 500 amps. So we put it at the number at the low end of the range. So here, and then he transfers it back again. And now we're actually in a vehicle connected up to the battery, ready for jump start your car. So I mean, anybody who knows anything about kind of animation and the complexity of having 3 completely different shots with a moving camera blending into each other, this is really unbelievable stuff. And it's just done by this really talented, I forget how old Philip is now, he's kind of 28, 29. And I first met him 2013. So we've developed this working relationship over 6 years. And it's really funny now. I don't know if you've ever worked with anybody like this, but it's now got to the point where I can kind of speak in completely crazy language and he knows what I mean. So I'll say things like, yes, I think at that moment the camera needs to move in a way that says, we're confident and we know what we're doing. And he'll say, yes, I know what you mean. And the next day he'll show me something. All right, let's wrap this thing up now. As you know, we're now inside of the car. Notice as the car starts, again, this is all done in computer animation, so we can show you these things like this, but watch the car, boom, boom, boom. Do you see the engine starts to move there? Isn't that genius? And then the thing about a battery like this is that it actually, which is true of all of these jump starting, is that they actually work better with the battery disconnected. Now, of course, in practice, you won't generally disconnect the battery of your car. But when your battery is drained, it's actually harder to start the car with the battery, because the battery in your car takes so much of the power away. But if you disconnect the battery, you can actually start lots and lots of cars with one of these. We think we're going to be able to get up to a couple of dozen. That's obviously a fine, very sexy selling feature. So we say it can jumpstart your car, which itself is amazing, and up to a couple of dozen neighbors on a single charge. And so that's it. It's then just a case of wrapping it up. How do we do that? We actually go back to the first. Here it comes. Boom, helicopter shot. Bring it back onto the screen like this. Remind everyone how beautiful it is. And then just summarize here with the main features. Extreme wireless, 3 charging ports. That's pretty extreme. Extreme wired. We've got the 5 USB outlets. And then extreme car starting, and then we wanted to have a kind of like cha-cha-cha end to the whole thing, and therefore, do you see the flashing on the screen where we just flash that? So that's it. I just thought you might like to hear a little bit of the kind of story behind the thing. Philip, I don't know, we spent 30, 40, 50 hours probably working on what you've just seen. I probably spent 10 or 15 hours in meetings with him discussing it at the recording studio and this, that, and the other, all to produce 1 minute of output. But I promise you, when the story of MAGFAST is told, this film is going to be one of the major inflection points that makes a huge difference. So I'm going to play it for you one more time here. And because you've been patient enough to sit and listen to me warble on about it, we'll put a button below this on the screen. If you've sort of fallen in love with Extreme all over again, we'll do the special pricing we do just for folks for a few minutes after they watch the main presentation. We'll put a button below here if you want to put an extra. It's still pre-order. It's still going to be many, many, many months before it ships. But if you want to grab quickly a pre-order at the special deal for this, please, no obligation to do so. I just figured that after watching this, it would be a friend of mine calls marketing malpractice not to give folks an opportunity to go ahead and get one if you feel you really want to. All right, so thanks so much. See you at next week's update, and here we go again for the final time today, ladies and gentlemen, the MAGFAST Extreme individual product video, the IPV.
MAGFAST Extreme is, quite simply, a new class of power bank, utterly uncompromising in every way. Extreme's extended form factor and high-intensity power source allow 2 extraordinary features that have never before been offered together and in a singular, beautiful product. First, arranged perfectly, symmetrically along its top surface, MAGFAST Extreme has not 1, not 2, but incredibly 3 fast Qi wireless charging ports. Second, in addition to offering all that wireless power and a total of 5 USB outlets, the battery inside is so powerful it can jumpstart your car and up to 2 dozen of your neighbors on a single charge. MAGFAST Extreme. Extreme wireless charging, extreme wired charging, extreme car starting.